YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to be doing our July wrap up and our August TBR. So this is like my fifth time trying to record this video. I tried to record it this morning and it was way too hot in my apartment. So I had to bring in my fan from my living room and like blast myself with my fan. So I was like windswept as hell. And then I realized like halfway through recording my July wrap up that my microphone wasn't working. So you could only hear the fan. It was literally a nightmare. So I decided, you know what, screw it. I'm not filming today. It's not happening. It's not happening. I went and ate lunch, got back to my apartment, and my apartment was like 10 degrees cooler than it had been all morning. So we're going to take two, try it again. And this time it should be way better than when I tried to record this morning. Okay, so like I said, July wrap up and then our August TBR. We'll run through our books from July 1st. July was actually a really great reading month. I read 12 books, I believe. Yes, I think I read 12 books, mainly romantasy because I was in that romantasy kind of mood, that kind of vibe. So the first book that we picked up in the month of July was Flame and Sparrow. I ended up giving this one a 4.75 stars. I really liked it. It's the first in a duology set in a world with like elves and gods. So the elves used to kind of be a higher up rank than regular mortals, but then the gods came and took over and basically said, the elves are bad. Screw the elves. They're like second class citizens. So in this book, we're following Kiris, and she is a member of a like rebel elf group after her sister is presumed to be dead. A random creature came to their house and they can't find her sister. So she's convinced that her sister's dead and that the gods are responsible, that the gods sent this creature after her. And so she decides that she is going to do everything in her power to kind of like cause bad things to happen to things affiliated with the gods. Karis and this rebel group are over here bombing these cathedrals that are being built for the gods. They're over here, causing things to go awry with anything affiliated with the gods because they don't want people to be worshiping them. So she gets caught. She is supposed to be, punished for her crimes when she's given the opportunity to actually serve under one of these gods. They have these kind of, I guess, like demigod prophet kind of deity things that are a way for mortals to ascend and be right under the gods. And the opportunity is given to Kiris, even though she's an elf. And so she decides to take it, and she ends up being partnered with one of the gods that she thinks is in the kind of faction that is responsible for her sister's death. And so she decides this is going to be her perfect opportunity to not only, figure out what's going on with the gods, take them down, and also figure out what happened with her sister. I really enjoyed the kind of like magic system in this world because not only is there the different things that's going on with the elves, but there's also the different things that are going on with the gods. And we're finding out everything that's going on with the gods at the same time as our main character, Kiris. She doesn't know a lot of the behind the scenes things that go on in the world where the gods live. So we're finding things out at the exact same time she is. And I thought that was just super interesting. I also really enjoyed the enemies to lovers storyline that goes on. Kiris at the start of the book is kind of already in a bit of a relationship with one of the other like rebel elves, but it's not really a very strong or developed love story. And so we kind of see how that relationship was affecting her when she's finally like out and free of all of those kinds of societal pressures from her elf group. And she's able to, see where this god is coming from and like everything that he's already been through to get to where he is as one of the like recognized people in this kind of like hierarchy. And she can see like he didn't just get this power because, he was born with it. He had to like work hard and like prove that he was worthy of ascending to being one of these gods. And so I did really enjoy that. Like I said, I gave it a 4.75. I just think that Kiris overall did a lot of things that made things harder for herself in the end. I feel like there was times where she could have taken like an easier path, and she just purposely chose to make things hard. Like she just purposely wanted to cause problems, which as a girl who makes her life harder every day, I feel that. But I also was like, girl, the answer's right in front of us. Let's take the easy way out. And she literally never did. Could not be bothered to make things easy. So that was my only kind of gripe with it. And I'm really excited to pick it up because, like I said, it's a duology. So we're only going to have one more book to kind of wrap up their storyline, which is very exciting. We love duologies. All right. The next book that I picked up in the month of July was Where Did You Go? This is the third book in the Infatuated Fae series. This one is following Callie and Mendax and Eli from the first book, How Does It Feel? How Does It Feel is still one of my top romantasy books, like of all time. I still think about that book constantly. That plot twist was executed so well. And this one was really giving love triangle a la Eclipse vibes. Like you can tell who she's going to end up with, but we're still in a love triangle. There's still things going on with both love interests, and Callie is still trying to uncover a lot of secrets that she still has not uncovered from the first book. I think that that is one of the things I'm most excited for with the next book. It's only a 4-book series, so I have one book left, and Callie's still trying to get to the bottom of all of her family drama. I mean, there's a lot going on with the Sealy court and the unsealy court because that's who all is kind of involved in this. But at the end of the day, it's still Callie's story, and we're still following along with what she needs to kind of uncover in her own life to get that kind of peace of mind and that satisfaction. I ended up rating this one 4 stars, so I still liked it more than the second book in the series. I think I'd give it like a 3.5. I can't remember anymore, but I really did not like the second book and was really tempted to not even finish this series out because the second book, in my opinion, was so poorly paced and so weirdly written to the point where I was like, I don't even know what characters are doing. I don't know why they're doing what they're doing. No one had a clear motive for anything, and no one had like a clear end goal in the second book. And I think that this alleviated a lot of that because there was like a very clear, this is what we have to go do, this is what we're trying to accomplish with this is like why we're doing everything we're doing. And it also made a lot more sense. Mendax was also a little bit more involved in this book than he was in the second, and I think that he just is one of my favorite characters in the series, so not having him around for a lot of the second book kind of sucked. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars, and I'm hoping to pick up the fourth book in the series later this fall. The next book that I ended up picking up this month was The Hunting Wives. This one is actually one of my 25 books to read in 2025, so I was glad to get this one crossed off the list. But the main reason I decided to go ahead and pick it up is because it's on Netflix now. I knew that it was being made into a show, but I didn't know when. And so when I finally saw that it was on Netflix, I was like, okay, yeah, we should probably get to reading this. I ended up giving this one a 3.25 stars, which is pretty low for me. I don't usually like to go any lower than a 3. But this one we're following Sophie, and Sophie gives up her like high paying job and her like big city life in Chicago to kind of relocate her family to a small town in Texas that she spent a couple of years in when she was growing up. And she gets entangled with a girl named Margot and her kind of group of housewives. They go out to this lake house and they like go shooting every Friday. And it's kind of like this little clique of housewives and what they do. And as Sophie's getting closer and closer to Margot, someone ends up dead. There's a murder. And they know that one of the guns that the hunting wives used during their little shootout kind of things that they do on the lake was the murder weapon. So they know one of these housewives has to be involved. I honestly did not love the way this book was written or the main character. I was really just following along for like the whodunit, which at the end of the day just made like the most logical sense. Like it made sense who the killer actually was. And I feel like if I would have been paying more attention to like who would want the victim dead, I could have probably pieced it together a lot faster. But I was just over here so like enthralled by the dynamic of Sophie and Margot. Margot's a super unlikable character, and like she's supposed to be very unlikable. She's kind of like the Regina George of this like mom group. She is very like manipulative. She does a lot of things to control the people around her and make sure that she gets what she wants. And at the end of the day, she only cares about herself and her own happiness and no one else's, including like quite literally her best friend, her husband, like everyone who's close to her, she's using to benefit herself. And that makes Margot a super unlikable character. But I think what took it kind of over the edge is the fact that Sophie is also extremely unlikable. Sophie spends a lot of the book talking about how she doesn't want to be like her own mother. She wants to give her son as much stability and as much like of a good, solid upbringing as possible because her mom was like very like chaotic. She moved at the drop of a hat. She didn't ever hold like a stable job. She was kind of all over the place. And then she complains that that's so selfish of her mom to have done that to her when she was a kid. But then she idolizes Margot, who is out here like blatantly telling her I use everyone around me. I only keep people around me if they benefit me. And like letting her know, like, once you don't become useful to me anymore, like, I'll let you go. Kind of like a, like, our friendship is only transactional to me. And Sophie still was like a-okay with that. And like was still kind of down bad for Margot, which was kind of interesting. Like, I wasn't expecting their dynamic to play out the way that it did. I also don't like the writing style, like the way it was written was kind of weird to me. I'm trying to find a page where it does this, because it would take like breaks in the chapter. So we can see that there's a couple of chapter breaks in the book, like where we're jumping from like one train of thought to another. And it's all told through Sophie's point of view. It's all Sophie narrating things that are happening. And she'll literally be like, oh, yeah, flashback to something that happened in Chicago with my husband. And then the chapter break will happen and it'll be like something about her thoughts on Margot and like an interaction she wants to have with Margot. And then there'll be another chapter break and then she'll go back to her flashback of Chicago. And it was almost like, why is it so difficult for her to just complete her train of thought about the one thing that she'd started the sentence with? Like, she'd start a whole new thing just to bring up Margot or to bring up something with the hunting wives. And I just feel like that was so difficult to read. And like, I think it was supposed to be showing the way that this relationship with Margot was affecting Sophie. But to me, it just read as like Sophie literally can't tell a whole story. Like, she just is so scatterbrained, I guess. And I did not love that that's how most of the book ends up being. Is just her trying to tell a story, getting caught up in something Margot's doing for like a paragraph and a half, and then jumping back into whatever she was supposed to be saying before. It just felt super unorganized and super like awkward. I'm not super sure if I want to get too into the TV show, but I have started the TV show and I am enjoying it. I don't think I'm enjoying it more than the book, but I do think that there are things that are portrayed better through acting than through the book. And I do think that there are changes that they've made to make it into a show that I think are going to play out a little bit better than they end up playing out in the book. So we'll see how that goes. The next book that we picked up in the month of July was Glint. This is the second book in the Plated Prisoner series. I know earlier this year when I finished Guild, I was talking about how someone told me to think of that book as the prequel, and this book is like the true first book. And I think that that really helped me set my expectations and really get the most out of the series so far. I ended up giving this one a 4.25. In this one, we're following the main character, Arin, and she is kind of in the control of the rival like army, and they're bringing her back to their palace and like their kingdom, from the kingdom that she is originally from, where she's under the protection of Midas. Since this is technically a King Midas retelling, but it doesn't really have as much of a retelling vibe as most traditional retellings. I'm having a lot more fun with this than I do most traditional retellings, if I'm being honest. I'm not really a retellings girl, and so for me to like actually enjoy something that's deemed as a retelling is a little bit rare. But I am having a really great time. This one does have the kind of bodyguard trope, since we are having a relationship between Arin and the main commander of this army. The next book that I picked up in the month of July was King of Envy. This is the fifth book in the King of Sin series by Anna Huang. I gave this one a 4.5 stars. I actually really enjoyed this. It follows Vuk and Iana, and Vuk is a character that we've seen kind of intermingled throughout the other King of Sin series books. He is a part of this kind of elite social club that all of the other billionaires in the series are a part of. The thing that's going on with this couple in this story is Iana is actually fake engaged to his best friend, and Vuk has to be the like best man at Iana's wedding to his best friend, but he's secretly been in love with Iana and like pining after her this whole time. And so what kind of gets the story kind of jumping off is that Vuk and Iana end up going to the cake tasting because Iana's fake fiance isn't able to go. And so it ends up being the two of them, and he starts to see these kinds of issues in her life. She's a model, so she has a lot of like issues with just the modeling industry, her management team, and he is able to kind of go behind the scenes and help her take care of those issues. And she starts to see a different side of him that's a lot more caring and a lot more gentle than he had kind of originally portrayed himself as. And so I thought that this was a really good like way to kind of continue the story with a couple that we haven't really seen interacting before, because I think the last 3 books, we've kind of already seen those people like in a sense of like relationships. Like the previous book, King of Sloth, is about a publicist and one of her customers. So we've already seen them together. The one right before that was a relationship, which was a kind of like marriage in crisis kind of storyline. So they were already together and we knew they were together. So with this one, to have a character we're very familiar with a character we're not very familiar with, and a setting that's just a little bit different, I thought really like freshened up the series. And it is a pretty thick book, so it was really nice to kind of have that like different vibe than the previous books. I did also really enjoy that this one's kind of a mafia romance. Like, even though Vuk is not actively in the mafia, he does have mafia ties, and those do kind of come around, and they actually involve someone in Ayana's life. So that's kind of another element that brings them together in this story. So like I said, 4.5 stars, really, really enjoyed it. The next book that I picked up in the month of July was Swift and Saddled. This one is the second book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series. We're following Ada and Wes. Ada was actually brought into the Rebel Blue Ranch kind of family to do a renovation on their like old house. They're going to turn it into a bread and breakfast. And so as an interior designer, she's brought on to kind of help renovate the space. And Wes is the person who's really in charge and taking this on like as his project. They have a kind of black cat golden retriever vibe going on, where she's kind of dark and moody, doesn't trust people, and he's just like such a friendly, nice, sweet guy. And so that was super fun to see. I gave this one a 4.5 stars. Again, really, really enjoyed it. I didn't do this one as immersive reading like I did with Done and Dusted, but I don't really think I needed it. I think that I still got everything that like the author was trying to convey through reading it, like without an audiobook. I think that this one also really sets up the next storyline super, super well. I think this one has a little bit less to do with the actual like ranch aspect, and it's a little bit more like ranch vibes, whereas the first one, Done and Dusted, was like, we're actually riding horses right now. And I think the next one will also be a little bit more of like actually dealing with stuff on the ranch, since that one follows Wes and Emmy's brother, Gus, with Emmy's best friend, Teddy. So super excited for that one. All right. After picking up a ton of romance, I decided to go with my thriller pick for my TBR, which was The Counselors by Jessica Goodman. I gave this one a 4.25 stars. I really enjoyed this one and how it was set up, but I also think that based on this author's previous work, this one was actually a slightly weaker book in her kind of backlist for me. I think I've read all of her books except for her 2 newest ones. And so this one follows a then and now timeline with our main character, who is a kind of local in this town that is known for having a summer camp that is kind of what funds the town. A lot of people who live in this town can't afford to go to the summer camp, but a lot of people who go to the summer camp make a lot of money, like their families are wealthy. And so they're able to charge a little bit extra and like bring in extra things to this town. Our main character is Goldie, and Goldie is kind of like one of the few people who can go to this camp for like free or discounted rate, because her parents actually work at the camp. And so she has a lot of really fond memories. She's going to this camp for over a decade. And this year, her and her best friends are going to be counselors at this camp. And it kind of takes a turn when the summer starts off and a dead body of one of the townsfolk is found in the lake. Like I said, it's told in a then now timeline. So you see how Goldie is actually connected to the person they find in the lake. I feel like that reveal gets done a little too quickly. I think by like page like 100, we know exactly everything that's gone down between her and the character that is unalived. And so it almost felt like the rest of the then timelines were just filler to give us like extra other things. Because it even goes as far back as the first time Goldie meets 2 of her best friends at this summer camp. And it's like, I think that that would have been a little bit more impactful and a little bit better if we would have seen it at the beginning of the then flashbacks, and that the then flashbacks were told in chronological order. I think that that would have given me a little bit more of like the mystery thriller elements that I want to get in a mystery thriller, you know? Like, I want there to be a mystery of like, why should we like care? And I think that was just told to us just a little bit too quickly, but I did really enjoy the twist in this. I didn't see the kind of big bad coming. I didn't know who was going to be the person that was responsible for this person's unaliving. So that was kind of fun to like piece together that mystery. One thing I do really enjoy about Jessica Goodman's writing, and she's done this in all of the books that I've read of hers, where she kind of like flips your expectation of people. She, has like the really quiet, meek person be the one who is actually sitting on like the most important piece of information. She has the responsible, trustworthy character actually be the person that has like the most they're hiding. And so I think that's always a super interesting thing that she does, where she kind of expects you to like follow like a traditional storyline, and then she flips it. And so I thought that was done really, really well in this one as well. Even if the then timeline was just a little bit weaker, I think that if it was also less of the book, because it basically is like a flipping back and forth from then and now, I think the then timeline could have just been like a quarter of the book, and I totally would have been a-okay with that. The next book that we picked up for the month of July was Home Run Proposal. This is the book that I decided to add to my TBR last month because me and my friends were going to a baseball game. And surprisingly enough, this book did teach me something about baseball. There was a handful of scenes where our main male character, Lane, was playing baseball, and we got to hear about the sports ball. It was great. It was delightful. In this one, we are following Hallie and Lane. So Hallie is a college freshman, and she wants to kind of make this list of things she wants to experience while at college. And so she decides that she wants to like learn how to be like in a relationship, how to be in love, like all of these kinds of things. And she wants to ask her best friend, who's also her roommate, like, hey, will you like help me like go through my little bucket list? And accidentally ends up giving it to her roommate, who's her best friend's older brother, who's a senior, who also like lives in the same house as them. And so he ends up deciding, yeah, like, okay, I'll I'll teach you all of this kind of stuff and like help you like experience college. And so we're following their kind of relationship. I honestly did not love the way that Lane treated her in the beginning. I gave this one a 3.75 stars solely based on the fact that he was like a known womanizer and a playboy. And then we would get to his point of view and he'd be like, I want to date Hallie, but like I gotta date all these other girls. And it's like, sir, what? Like, just because these other college students think you're cute doesn't mean you have to like entertain this. Like, you can go after the girl you want, because he had no problem getting girls. He was like, I'm an athlete, I can get any girl I want, but not her. Like, okay. And also the found family in this was a little bit strange. There's a character in here who's really good friends with Lane, and I kept being like, why is he popping up? He's not contributing anything to the story. He's literally just like a soundboard for Lane to voice his thoughts and opinions on Hallie on someone who's not us as the reader. Whenever we'd be in his point of view, his friend would be around and he would just tell him all this stuff about Hallie. And it felt like just like a soundboard for him to say things that he wanted to say about Hallie without telling it to her face, or having it be an internal monologue. And like we were supposed to think that that was like a found family thing, when his friend had like no thoughts or opinions or anything really to contribute to any conversation, just listening to him. So yeah, that was super interesting. Was not the hugest fan of that dynamic, but I still really enjoyed our main character, Hallie. She's a little bit of a weird girl. She actually has a podcast on like the paranormal. So like she was talking about like cryptids and Bigfoot and like ghosts. And so like we got to hear like all these things that she thinks are like so weird and quirky about herself. But Lane's like, actually, like those are really cool. So like I did enjoy that. I'm not too sure if I want to pick up the next book in the series, just because it did feel a little bit young, even though like it's new adults, like they're adults, adult things are happening. It just felt a little bit juvenile sometimes. Okay, the next book that I picked up in the month of July was Queen of Roses. This one is actually a prequel series to the Bloodwing Academy books that I feel like everyone has been talking about reading. I saw a YouTuber's video talking about starting Bloodwing Academy, and she was talking about how she wished she would have known that there was a prequel series to go over before reading Bloodwing Academy. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to take that recommendation and I'm going to actually read like the way you're supposed to, like the correct reading order. So Queen of Roses is the first book in this quartet. It's 4 books, and we're following Morgan, who's kind of like an exiled princess. So she is like royalty. Her father is the king. But when he passes away, he decides that the person who's going to take over for him is actually Morgan's younger brother, who was born like illegitimately. So he's an illegitimate heir. But he decides, like, okay, this is the person who's going to be actually in charge of the kingdom. You're going to go and like become like a nun. Like he basically signs her up to become a nun when she turns 21, I believe. So she only has like a year left to like live her life, do anything she wants. and she is kind of still figuring out what she wants to do. Like if she like even has any hobbies she enjoys, if she has anything else she like wants to do. She's not allowed to train to be a knight, which is what she originally wanted to do. And what her best friend is doing is training to be a knight. So she's not allowed to do any of that stuff. And so her brother gives her kind of a proposition of like, hey, like, how about you go look for this like artifact that we need, this kind of like ancient Fae relic. And when you get back, we'll kind of reevaluate what the deal is with you going to be like a high priestess kind of nun. We'll reevaluate that when you come back. And so she's like equal parts excited to like get a job and get something to like give her life purpose, but she also knows that her brother is super vindictive and does not want her to come and like try to rival his grasp for power. He's super power hungry. We're following Morgan and Draven as they're going on this kind of journey to get this ancient Fae relic, since the Faes have been outcast and they're not like accepted in society. Like people of like Fae like ancestry are persecuted and treated differently in this book. And so Morgan is tasked with getting this Fae artifact, and she decides like, okay, this will give my life like a purpose. This will be something good for me to do to figure out what I want to do in my future. And Draven kind of helps her along with that. There wasn't a ton of romance in it just yet. There was a lot of banter with her and Draven, but the world building was really good. I did enjoy the world building. It was pretty easy to follow because it wasn't too like hard to understand, and because a lot of the like information that we get about the Fae is told through a history kind of lesson, it felt like we were learning it in like easy digestible chunks along with our main character, which was kind of nice. But yeah, the love story was just a little bit lacking, and there was also kind of a cliffhanger ending. Like I'm still a little bit confused by the very last chapter. It didn't make a ton of sense, but we have also been following Morgan's point of view like the entire story. So if she was confused about what's going on, obviously we're going to be confused when she's saying what's going on. So I did end up giving this one a 4.25 stars. I think it was a really good start to the romantasy series, since we do have 3 more books to like get through. So it's not like it had to be like fully like finished and fully like wrapped up. I think that it'll be a really interesting story to see how it plays into the Bloodwing Academy books when I do finally get there, because I'm still not sure how they tie into each other. I just know that they do. And that was enough for me. So the next book that I ended up picking up is And They Were Roommates by Paige Powers. I've been super excited to read this book for literally months. I heard about it and mentioned wanting to read it in my, I believe it was my June 24-hour reading challenge that I posted, but that ended up not being like a real 24-hour reading challenge. But I did really want to read this back then. So I finally picked it up from my local indie romance bookstore and was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed it. I gave this one a 4.5 stars. We are following Charlie and Jasper. So Charlie is starting at Valentine Academy, which is an all-boys, like prestigious school that is the brother school to the school his mom had graduated from. It's known for being super exclusive. You have to have the best of the best grades. Like everyone who goes here is extremely smart and expected to be like top of their class at all times. And so Charlie finally gets accepted to go, and he requests a single room, but he ends up getting put with a roommate. He gets put with someone named Jasper, and he actually has history with Jasper. He had met Jasper a couple summers ago during a theater camp that goes on between Valentine's and their sister school, but Charlie was going to the sister school before he transitioned. So Charlie is trying to keep his identity under wraps, and Jasper is one of the only people who could hurt his chances of staying at Valentine's Academy. This one is kind of a second chance romance, since they do have a bit of a history together. I will admit it reminded me why I don't usually love second chance romance. I feel like if losing someone is what it took to make you realize you wanted to be with them, you didn't want to be with them that bad. And I think that that was the main issue with their relationship the first time, is that Charlie was super into Jasper. Jasper was not as into Charlie, and that just ended up being like a big miscommunication trope in the end. And so that was not my like favorite part of it, but I did enjoy the subplot that's going on. So at this academy, they have this sister school that's right across the fence from them, so super super close. Shouldn't be like that big of an issue, but they're not allowed to communicate like at all. They're not allowed to be texting each other. They're not allowed to be sending emails. They're not allowed to go over to the other school at all. They're kept completely separate until the end of year formal. And the way that they're able to get around this kind of issue of never being able to talk to the other students is that there's a tutoring program that is actually a love letter writing service. And that's the way that they're able to send their letters over to the girls' school. They kind of partner with the other top 5 students at the girls' school and the top 5 students at the boys' school. And they correspond all of these letters back and forth. So that way, when the end of year dance comes, they're all able to interact with each other and know who each other is and like have little relationships and all that kind of stuff. And so we're following that subplot of how this kind of ring of students is going about making sure that their cover isn't blown of the tutoring ring, but they're also able to continue writing letters and making sure that they're able to, get everyone to have a date to their end of year fling. So I thought that one was really interesting. Like I said, I like the subplot a little bit more than the romance, but it also is a YA romance. So I wasn't expecting anything like super crazy. I think it left off on a really good note of where their relationship could go. The next book we picked up in the month of July was Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole. I gave this one a 4.5 stars. This one we're following Diem, and she is a healer taking over for her mother who went missing a couple of months prior. And so Diem's mom was known as one of the healers that was going to the palace to help these descendants of the gods to be well and to, heal. And she was working very closely with the current, I guess, like king of their realm. And so Diem decides, okay, well, my mom's gone. I need to take care of what my mom was doing for work. And so she ends up working very closely with the king and his heir and a couple of members of his family as well. And she gets to kind of see what's going on with the like other half in this magic system. I feel like this was really similar to other books I read this month, but executed really well. It was giving like Hunger Games meets 1984 vibes. Because while Diem is like working on figuring out what's going on with her mom and where her mom went, one of her childhood best friends, Henry, is working with a rebel group of mortals that are trying to overthrow the kind of descendants who are in places of power in their kingdoms. And so she's kind of trying to work with them and like help them out along with their cause. But she also wants to make sure that she's not going to risk her job being a healer in the like palace. And so it was kind of a fine line of like what you do for the people that have known you the longest and what you do based on like what you think is right and just in the world. While a lot of people I've heard do not love Diem, I liked her. I thought she was great. I think Henry was insufferable. He's the character she's known from childhood. We didn't love him, but I could see myself becoming obsessed with Luther. Like I thought that he was great. I thought that he tried to like help Diem along and like give her the benefit of the doubt. I think that he was like equal parts like rough and tumble and like was like also like really sweet and caring for her. I don't know. I really liked their dynamic and I'm super excited to see where this goes. This is another 4-book series. So I just started a bunch of series this last month is what we've learned. The last book that I picked up in the month of July is the 5th book in the Zodiac Academy series. It's called Cursed Fates. And so since this one is the 5th book in the series, I'm not going to give too much away. It was my favorite book in the series so far. I gave it 4.5 stars. The whole premise of the Zodiac Academy series is we're following 2 twins, Tori and Darcy, who were raised in the mortal realm. And someone comes for them after they've turned 18 and is like, hey, you guys are actually Fae princesses and we need you to come like complete school in our realm so you can either like take over the throne or like renounce your title or like what have you, but like you have to come and like finish school basically is what they're told. And so we're following them as they go to Zodiac Academy and as they kind of face like what is like normal in the Fae society. They're like really not confrontational in the beginning, but they have 4 like similarly aged male main characters who basically are like the people who would take over the throne if the twins decide not to come into power. And so those guys are trying to get them to drop out of school early so that way they renounce their throne and their money. And the twins end up deciding, yeah, no, we're going to stick it out. We're going to stay here. And that's kind of where we go from there, is them sticking it out, being in the Fae world, seeing what's normal for Fae, coming into their orders, dealing with magic and magic classes. It's really a dark academia setting. And the first couple books were bully romance, but I think we've moved past that at this point. So if you're worried about like, oh my god, a 9-book series of like all bully romance, I think it's 12 books actually. I think it's more than 9. But it's not all terrible. Like I said, this has been my favorite one so far. It has a lot more going on than just like the romance aspect. There's a lot more world building that is still happening here in book 5 and a lot more things that are still being uncovered. So I'm still having a really good time with this series, even though there's a lot of books left. Well, that one was my last book for July. I would say that we didn't have any 5 stars, but we also rated, I think, everything at like a 4.5 or higher. So still overall good. Let's get the TBR dice game out and roll our 8 prompts for our August TBR. All right, so now we have our board game, got our dice, and like I said, we'll pick our usual 8 prompts. I'm really hoping to be able to squeeze as many books for my book conventions as possible into this. So first roll, we have 6 and 3. 6 and 3. Priority TBR. Already off to not the greatest start. Literally none of the books on my priority TBR are for Books, Gowns, and Crowns or Villains and Vixens. So that's super fun. But let's take a peek. Let's see what we have on our priority TBR that we can try and make work. Hopefully we can find something that's just like short, maybe. Like that might be my best bet, to do something quick and easy. I'm also trying to think of something that is like at least summary. Okay, so looking at this list, I feel like The Guilt Trip by Sandy Jones might be kind of fun. We have People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry, and while that one's not really the vibe of any of my book conventions that are coming up, like that's at least a summer read. And Ember in the Ashes is also romantasy, and so is The Hemlock Queen, and I don't know if I want to overload myself on all romantasy things. Yeah, I think we're going to be doing People Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. Let me grab my copy of that book. Thankfully, my copy of People Meet on Vacation is the Book of the Month book. So it was easy to find because it's on my Book of the Month shelf. But also, it's a hardback. So hopefully, even though it looks kind of thick, it won't be as thick and intimidating once we actually get to reading. So here we have our first book on the TBR. Okay, 5 and 6. 5, 6. First book we see on Goodreads. Okay, cool. We'll see how that goes. I feel like the last couple times have not been that kind to us. So the first books on here are Delilah Green Doesn't Care and Iris Kelly Doesn't Date, which I don't own. I also don't have The Maid, Margot's Got Money Troubles, or For the Record. I don't own any of these books. Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail. Okay, do I want to bend my rule just a little bit, just a smidge? Because Accomplice to the Villain comes out on Tuesday, and I do have it pre-ordered, so I will be getting my copy on Tuesday. Do we want to say that's our book? Because the next one that I see that I do already own is The Games Gods Play, which is an author that is going to be at one of the book events. Actually, Hannah Nicole Mayer is going to be at one of the book events too. So like either way, I'm actually doing what I wanted to do. I think I'm going to go by the rules and do Games Gods Play, just because I think either way, no matter what books end up on my TBR, I think Accomplice to the Villain will get read. Like I'm not too worried about that book getting read. So let me go to my shelves and grab a Game Gods Play. I have returned. We have a The Games, plural, The Games Gods Play by Abigail Owen. I honestly don't know much about this one. I'm pretty sure it's just like Greek mythology. We were about to put this on a different TBR like a couple months ago. I read this little flap and I already forgot what it said. Basically, the gods pick a mortal to play in their stead in these games and trials. main character homegirl, whatever her name is, I already forgot. She gets picked. So super excited for this one. I just don't want to get a 6 this time. We've had 6 in both roles. 1 and 6. I jinxed myself. Okay, 1, 6. Film or TV adaptation? Like, if I'm being completely honest, I made that prompt to get me to read Six of Crows. And there was one other book. It's not People Leave Me on a Vacation, but there's another book where I was like, that's made into a TV show. Freaking Hunting Wives. That was made into a TV show. But I'm like out of things that were made into TV shows, I think. Let me take a second to look at the stack of books, see what I've got. But I think we might end up having to re-roll because I don't think I'm going to have anything. We'll see. Okay, be right back. I'm back. I had more options than I thought, but none are options I think I want to read right now. The first one is To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. Obviously, this one is on Netflix. We can tell by the fake sticker. No, it's a real sticker. The real sticker. Okay, I can take the sticker off. Love that. But we have this one as our first option. We have The Perfectionists by Sarah Shepard. Our third option is Heartstopper. I'm on volume 2. And I honestly think this might be what we go with. I think this is what we went with the last time I had this prompt. Solely because it's so quick. It's so easy. They're so cute. I think this would just be like a nice little palette cleanser, especially since I want to read a lot of romantasy for my book events. Like, I already have a romantasy that's a super thick boy on the TBR, so it'd be nice to have a tiny legend. I think we should go with this one. All right, so now it's time for our fourth prompt. 6 and 4. 6, 4, less than 300 pages. Okay, cool. I don't know how many under 300 page books I have left because I think I've read almost all of them. I think the Done and Dusted series has kind of gotten a lot of our under 300 page books. So let me look, see what we've got. Okay, so took us a hot second to find them. If you can't tell from how like ridiculously sweaty I got hunting down books under 300 pages, I did find some and like a good variety. So first one that we have is Fortuna Sworn. This one is a romantasy series. I honestly didn't know what this was about, so I had to like read this. So her brother disappeared. She's hiding among humans until she catches the eye of a powerful fae. But this one was 298. Yes, 298. So contender. This one was clocking in at 289. The Blonde Identity by Allie Carter. I believe this is about a girl who wakes up and like doesn't remember who she is. Yeah, no memory. She has a splitting headache. The hottest guy she's probably ever seen is standing over her, telling her to run, and there are people trying to kill her. So that's option 2. Option 3 is a little bit of a cop out because it is technically over 300 pages, but it's the bonus chapter and the epilogue that made it over 300 pages. So if I don't read the bonus chapter and the epilogue, I'm good, right? But yeah, this one is This Blood That Binds Us. I believe this one's a new adult, college-aged vampire romance where our main character, Kimberly, is attacked and turned into a vampire and has to work with the guy who turned her to, I guess, like fight the big bad in the story. But I think that we're going to be going with our first option, Fortuna Sworn. This one is another one that is an author who will be at one of the book events I'm going to. So probably best to start the series. Even though I was just complaining about having too many series going. It's fine. Okay, now on to book number 5. 5 and 4. 5. I love this prompt. Book Baddies group chat picks. So I will send the text. We'll see what my friends say. Last time I got this one, I thought I knew what my friends were going to say, and then I ended up getting the weirdest book of my life. So we'll see we'll see what happens this time. I have to make a new chat because I realized I've been using a chat without my friend Liz, and I felt really guilty about that for a really long time. But Liz understood because she was like, "Oh, you made that chat when I wasn't your friend yet," because that is true. So my friend Cecilia just sent me "All My Love" by Morgan Elizabeth. So I guess that one's going on the TBR. Let me see if it's on Kindle. I don't know anything about that. I don't even own a copy. I hope it's short. Okay, it is on Kindle Unlimited. 360 pages, so not bad. Oh, it's Friends to Lovers. Okay, we'll see how this goes. I low-key feel like that's not my vibe at all. I don't like Friends to Lovers and I don't like Second Chance, and it's both of those. Let's roll. This will be book number 6. 3 and 6. 3, 6. Black on the cover. Wait, I think I know exactly which one I want. I have a lot of options for black on the cover though. So let me look at the books I have. I think I know which one I'm picking though. For the prompt, black on the cover, we've got a couple, and I really genuinely want to read all of them. Like, they're not all going to be on the TBR, but I want to read all of them. First, we have Liar's Crown. This one's also by Abigail Owen, who wrote The Games Gods Play. This one is about a secret princess who is the twin to the main princess, and she kind of serves as the decoy. And all I really know is that I believe that the queen is dead, and the king sends the backup princess on like a mission. I don't know 100% that's right, but I've had this on my TBR for forever, and I wanted to buy it for so long and read it. And I finally picked it up at Barnes like super recently. The next book that we have with black on the cover that I want to get to is Kiss of the Basilisk. My friend is actually on her honeymoon right now, and she, I believe, brought this book along, and we wanted to buddy read it, but the audiobook doesn't come out until later this month. I think it's like the 19th. So even if I don't put it on the TBR, I might end up reading it when the audiobook comes out. And then my last option is The Poisoner. This one's by Ivy Ophelia, another author that will be at the book event I'm going to later this fall in September. I don't know a ton about this one either. I believe this one is about a girl who like makes poison and then people start getting murdered. And I think she just to like help solve it. Yes. Botanist and hobbyist poisoner. Pastime of killing unsavory men. I think this one's our pick. Like, if I'm being honest, this is the one I'm most interested in. This is the one I have the most like pull to read quickly. And I do already have the audiobook for this downloaded. So it's already one step ahead of Kiss of the Basilisk. So I think we're going to do this one. So this is roll number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is roll 7. 5 and 2. Okay, 5, 2. Pretty cover. We like getting pretty cover, so we'll go with a pretty cover. Okay, as much as I would love to keep these two on for pretty cover, I feel like I know a different book that I think is a little bit prettier that I want to read a little bit sooner than I want to read these two. And that is this one, Raiders of the Lost Heart by Joy Segura. She's actually going to be at a local like author event near me, and I'm hoping to catch her and have her sign this copy. So it'll be really cool if I actually read it. So yeah, I think we're going with this one on the TBR. So now we're on our last one, 3 and 5. 3, 5. Owned for over a year. Ooh. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to look around for that one because I don't know. Well, I know what books I've owned for over a year, but I don't know what books I've owned for over a year that I want to read right now. Interesting. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, so we're gonna go with Planes, Trains, and All the Feels by Livy Hart. I've had this one since right after it came out, which I believe was 2023. Let me triple check myself though. Yeah, May 2023. So we've had this one for over 2 years, which is pretty bad. Yeah, not my greatest accomplishment. I originally was going to go with a thriller because I don't have any thrillers on the TBR, but I couldn't find a thriller that I wanted to read that was over a year old, like at all, period. Like the closest we got was Riley Sager's Middle of the Night, but that one came out July 2024, and I definitely didn't buy it its first month out. I waited on that one for a minute. So now we've officially picked our TBR. Let's go through what we've picked for which prompt. So, owned over a year, we've done Planes, Trains, and All the Feels. Then for pretty cover, I went with Raiders of the Lost Heart. For black on the cover, yes, black on the cover, we did The Poisoner, which is also on Kindle Unlimited. So I might read that one on Kindle. Next up, we have Fortuna Sworn, and that one was for book under 300 pages. Book with a TV adaptation, we have Heartstopper. The first one we saw on Goodreads was The Games Gods Play, and then the priority TBR pick was People Meet on Vacation. And then from my Book Baddies book chat, All My Love by Morgan Elizabeth from Cecilia. So those are our 8 books on the TBR. I feel like, yet again, we're leaning romantasy heavy, but also we have a lot of just like regular romance. I feel like I haven't done this much contemporary romance in one TBR in like a hot minute, because I think we have 4. Yeah, it's like split down the middle, fantasy and contemporary. So we have quite a lot going on. I feel like we have quite a lot going on with this book stack in particular. I feel like I said, lots of contemporary, but also lots of fantasy. So we'll see how this goes. Fingers crossed August is as good of a reading month as July was, because if I'm able to get these 8 knocked out, and I also do Kiss of the Basilisk with that audiobook out, it'll be a good month. I think it'll be a good month. Okay, so my camera battery died like right after I said what all books were on our TBR, but before I could decide an emoji. So we're going to go with the sun emoji. Since it's August, the sun is out, it's summer, we're going with the summer vibes. We're doing the sun emoji in the comments if you made it to the end of the video. But yeah, that's my August TBR. Fingers crossed August is as good of a reading month as July, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye! All kinds of little eye boogers. Gonna face the camera. Do intro. I'm gonna be so mad if I can't find any of these pages, because when I first recorded this, I found like 6 right off the bat. There. What's their brother's name? But I feel like that get revealed. Morgan. Oh, like a lame name. Okay. Well, series to the blog. I saw a YouTuber write a like, or not write. And so Queen, I think his name's Draven too. Yeah. I read a lot of books with Draven in them this month. Like, is that weird? 2 characters named Draven in 2 different books. It's not really like a common name. But that's probably spoilers. Those are spoilers. I shouldn't say that. Let's rewind. I'll just edit all of this out. You have so much fun editing this. Let me read the characters' names before I forget and then have to like pause. And so it's known for being, like super, like, what's the word? Exclusive? Yes. Yeah. How do I say that like nicer? The next book I picked up in the month of July. Yep, that's a month. I gave this one a 4.5. I need to go lay down. I'm tired. Oh my god, I've talked forever. It's okay. I'll just keep reading forever. Starting all these series, being halfway through like the longest series ever. Who needs free time? Someone's like U-hauling outside. Like I literally just hear the beep 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 of them backing up. Oh, the Crucible, Deadly Contest. We love games and trials. I think we almost picked this for 500 pages because she's a beefy boy. I feel like the light is hitting this more than it's hitting me. Okay, maybe that's a little better. I don't know. And then our second, I can't count. I think that's everyone from the original chat. Everyone from the original chat plus Liz. Sorry, girl. Okay. A sequit. Excuse me. Okay. No more 6s, right, sweet boy? I'm sick of getting the 6. Have you noticed? We've gotten a lot of 6s lately, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, yes, this will be 8. I can count. So We're done picking the TBR. I should have said that to the camera. This is my least favorite part. I always get so stressed.